All right. So this next animal is the only animal I have that I really cannot hold in my hands, regardless of whether I'm wearing gloves or anything else. And he lives in this big terrarium that is just full of tropical soil. That's all it is. I'm not going to be feeding him today because he's already eaten. He eats at nighttime, and one of his food items survived. There's a cricket right there. You want to say hi, cricket? Oh, there he goes. That cricket has lived. Don't know how much longer he'll live. And we're just going to be misting this down. But we'll see if we can find him. He's pretty large. I call him Ragnarok, the bringer of destruction. It's the end. He is the end of the world, literally, for a lot of animals. Now, sometimes finding him can be a little difficult because he does like to burrow into the dirt. So it can be a little difficult to find him sometimes. I may not be able to find him without tearing up the ground too much, which I don't. If I can avoid it, I would like not to have to rip everything up in here. But usually he's just kind of buried somewhere, and he comes out primarily at nighttime. Oh, there's part of his body right there. Oh, let me point the camera at it. Right there, you can see a little bit of his body. If I just kind of move this way. Oh, I touched him a little bit. He didn't like it. He's like, hey, what is that? Ah, there he is. And we'll see if we can get him to just come out and say hi. If I just touch him a little bit, point the camera at him. I keep pointing the camera away. Just touch him. Actually, there's his head. There we go. He is a Vietnamese centipede. Now, these are extremely active, fast-moving, and aggressive predators. Like I said, this is the only animal that I will not hold. It's not because I don't have any special gloves or anything like that. It's because these animals are aggressive. They will bite, and they are venomous. Now, this is his head right here. You can tell he's got the, you can sense that I'm moving something over his head. His antennae are red up at the top of his head. And his eyes are extremely small. They're good at sensing movement and light above him, which is why he senses that there's something above him when I'm taking these bamboo tweezers back and forth. But directly on the underside of his head, on either side, his first pair of legs are modified into giant spikes that have venom glands in them. And so it's not a part of his mouth, it's just the first pair of legs. You want to show what you do? Yeah. He's a little more used to being touched now. He's still not a huge fan of it. There he is. And he is quite huge. There we go. He's about 7 to 8 inches long. Obviously, I'm not going to try to pull him out and measure him. He would not like that, and he'd probably try to bite me. Or sting me, is the more correct term. He does not have venomous bite. He has stingers. And these animals are just effective, massive predators of the genus Scolopendra. Now, there's his tail right there. His tail, the legs, they're not antennae. I'm forgetting the term that they use for them. But what they do, those right there, see, I just touched them. What they'll do is they'll take those and they'll actually grab onto stuff with them. Now, when they eat, wish he was hungry, he would eat that cricket for us. It would be fantastically cool. They actually just grab onto everything with their legs and just stab them with those venomous spikes. So if I take this cricket, no cricket, you've had a hard time living in here, surviving, but you're food, so it's okay. Can you walk this way? Can you walk that way? Walk toward the centipede. There you go. There you go. Oh, he just jumped over the centipede. See if the centipede will find him. No, maybe not. Okay. There were 6 other crickets in here just a couple days ago, so he has proceeded to eat all of them. There he goes, burrowing down. So that was, you got to see Ragnarok. Now, in terms of keeping one of these are very popular with a lot of people who keep arthropods. However, this is an animal that you do need to be careful of. Now, technically, this enclosure is a little not that high. He can climb out of this. Generally, when we do educational programs, not ones where people are obviously allowed to touch animals, but when we do our education stations, where we have a big table and we use animals to educate, I bring him in just this. This makes it easy for people to see him. I don't like to take him out of here if I don't have to. and people are able to see what he looks like and how it is when he walks around and see what his reaction is like to being touched by a pair of long tongs. So this is not only his house, but this is his display tank when we take him places. Now, if you were to have one of these as a pet, I would highly recommend getting a container that is a lot taller than this, since he is about 7 to 8 inches long. I would get something that's about 10 inches high. A little bit tall, higher up than their body is tall. They will need a lot of tropical soil, which you will want to make sure is nice and wet for most of the time. Since this is a tropical animal, they do require fairly moist soil, not only to burrow into and walk around in, but also just for general well-being, keeping their body in healthy condition. Now, when I say wet, that doesn't mean pour a ton of water in there and have it be mud, but nice and damp. And of course, a water source for him. They do get thirsty occasionally, so you want to have some water. A nice lid from a jar works just fine. And since they are nocturnal, they may not come out to eat unless you are asleep. So generally, I do multiple feedings a day. I do morning, lunchtime, and evening. So sometimes when I come out in the evening, he's walking around, and sometimes that's when I'll throw his food in. Otherwise, you can put it in the middle of the day. Crickets will generally live for several days in a container, and let him eat it when he wants to. All right. Well, that has been our Vietnamese centipede.